Don't let her fall asleep, Boone. Staff Sergeant Caleb Mercer's voice is barely louder than the water climbing around his chest. The words move through the darkness and vanish inside the flooded tunnel, swallowed by the groan of old steel and the steady drip of a river searching for a way in. 20 feet ahead, a German shepherd stands on a narrow concrete ledge beneath a rusted ventilation pipe. His black and tan coat is soaked flat against his ribs. Mud darkens his paws. Between them lies a red medical bag, its canvas scraped and dripping, and beside it rests the pale hand of a child Caleb cannot yet reach. Boone lowers his head and presses his nose against the little girl's cheek. No response. He nudges her again, gentler this time, then looks back toward Caleb with amber eyes that catch the trembling beam of the flashlight. Those eyes do not beg. They command. Hurry. Caleb braces one shoulder beneath a bent support bar and forces himself forward another inch. Cold water pushes against him with the weight of something alive. His fingers are numb. His breath comes hard. Behind Boone, the girl's face is half hidden beneath a yellow rain hood, and her lips have lost their color. Stay with us, sweetheart, Caleb calls. You're not alone. Boone turns back to her. He lies down beside the child, pressing the warmth of his body against hers, though his own legs are shaking. For one terrible second, nothing moves except the water. Then the girl's smallest finger curls against the strap of the medical bag. Caleb sees it. Boone sees it too. The dog releases a low sound from deep in his chest, not quite a whine, not quite a prayer. 47 minutes earlier, no one at the Riverside emergency shelter knows the stray German shepherd has already found the missing child. They only know he has stolen a United States Marines medical bag. The storm has passed over Wilmington, North Carolina, but it has left the city bruised beneath a low gray sky. Rainwater runs along the curbs in brown ribbons. The Cape Fear River presses high against its banks. The air smells of salt, wet lumber, diesel fuel, and pine branches torn open by the wind. Inside an old community center, folding tables hold bottled water, blankets, batteries, and paper cups of coffee that have gone cold. Families speak in tired voices. Volunteers move from cot to cot beneath fluorescent lights that flicker whenever the portable generator coughs. Caleb kneels beside an elderly fisherman whose palm has been cut on a broken window latch. He works slowly, cleaning the wound and wrapping it with practiced hands. At 37, Caleb still carries the unmistakable shape of a Marine. Tall, broad-shouldered, close-cut brown hair, and a posture that remains straight even after too many sleepless nights. His skin is weathered by years of sun, and his gray-blue eyes are steady until they settle on the red bag beside his boot. Then something behind them tightens. The bag is old. One handle has been repaired with black thread. The white medical emblem is faded almost pink. It once belonged to Corporal Mason Reed, the closest friend Caleb ever had, and Caleb has carried it since the day he reached Mason too late. He never speaks about that day. He simply keeps the bag stocked, the buckles polished, and the zipper facing outward, ready for the next person who might still have time. Across the parking lot, beneath the dripping edge of an awning, Boone watches him. No one knows the dog's name yet. To the volunteers, he is only a stray that appeared after sunrise. Underfed, soaked, and silent, with a torn left ear and a strip of faded blue fabric where a collar once rested. Someone sets out a bowl of water. Boone ignores it. A little boy offers half a turkey sandwich. The dog does not move. His gaze remains fixed on Caleb's medical bag. Caleb finishes the bandage and helps the fisherman stand. Keep it dry, he says. Come back if the swelling gets worse. He turns toward a woman calling from the registration table. That is when Boone steps from beneath the awning. He crosses the pavement without hurry, paws making soft splashes through shallow water. No barking, no fear. He reaches the bag, lowers his head, and closes his teeth around the reinforced handle. A volunteer gasps. Caleb turns just as Boone lifts it from the floor. Hey! The dog freezes. For a moment, Marine and shepherd study each other across 10 feet of wet concrete. Caleb sees intelligence in the animal's face, but something else too. Urgency. Put it down, he says, calm and firm. Boone does not growl. He does not tighten his jaw. He simply backs away, turns, and runs. The red bag swings against his chest as he crosses the parking lot. That dog stole your kid, someone shouts. Caleb is already moving. Boone reaches the far sidewalk, then stops beneath a bent street lamp. He looks back. Rain slips from the tips of his ears. Caleb takes another step. The shepherd turns and runs again, heading toward the flooded streets beyond the shelter. 30 yards later, he stops once more and looks over his shoulder. Not escaping. Waiting. Caleb feels the old bag's absence like an open space beneath his ribs. Then he notices what everyone else has missed. Boone has ignored food, warmth, and safety. He has chosen the one object in the building meant to keep someone alive. Caleb breaks into a run. The dog turns toward the river, carrying Mercy between his teeth. Caleb reaches the edge of the parking lot, just as Boone disappears between two storm-bent oak trees. Water splashes beneath the Marine's boots, cold enough to soak through the leather within seconds. The community center fades behind him, along with the generator's uneven hum and the voices of volunteers calling for him to come back. He does not answer. Ahead, the red medical bag flashes between parked cars like a warning light moving through the rain. Boone keeps a steady pace, fast enough to remain out of reach, but slow enough to be followed. Caleb notices that immediately. This is not panic. It is not the wild flight of a frightened stray. The dog is measuring him. Every 50 feet, Boone glances over one shoulder, confirms that Caleb is still there, and continues toward the river. Caleb has seen that rhythm before. Years ago, in a training field baked pale beneath the California sun, military working dogs had been taught to move ahead of their handlers without breaking the invisible line between command and trust. Boone carries himself with the same discipline. His head remains low against the rain. His ears turn toward every sound. When a loose sheet of metal scrapes across the pavement, he shifts sideways without dropping the bag. When a truck horn sounds from the next block, he does not flinch. Caleb's suspicion grows heavier with every step. "Who trained you?" he calls. Boone does not stop. The city around them bears the storm's quiet damage. Branches lie across yards. A porch swing hangs from one chain. Brown water presses against the tires of abandoned cars, carrying leaves, plastic cups, and pieces of insulation toward the swollen drains. Farther east, emergency sirens rise and fade beneath the low clouds. The air tastes of salt and rust. Caleb runs past a darkened pharmacy and nearly loses his footing where mud has washed across the sidewalk. His left knee stiffens, an old reminder from a hard landing overseas, but he keeps moving. The red bag strikes Boone's shoulder with each stride. The sound is soft, almost familiar. Canvas against wet fur. Buckles tapping together. Caleb knows every mark on that bag. The dark stain near the side pocket came from spilled coffee during a night exercise at Camp Lejeune. The bent zipper pull came from Mason Reed, who had tried to open it while wearing winter gloves and laughed when the metal snapped. Mason had repaired the handle with black thread during a long flight home, sewing each crooked stitch beneath the dim cabin lights, while Caleb teased him about his terrible handiwork. "Ugliest repair I have ever seen," Caleb had said. Mason had held up the bag with a tired grin. "Ugly still works." The memory arrives without warning, warm for half a second, then sharp around the edges. Caleb sees a different sky, a different road. Mason's bag resting in the dust while a radio voice repeats instructions that come too late. Caleb pushes the image away. He has spent years learning how to do that. Breathe in. Count 4. Keep moving. Save the person in front of you. The past cannot be treated. The living can. Boone turns onto Dawson Street, where floodwater covers half the road. Caleb slows. The water reaches above his ankles, swirling around fallen branches and hidden cracks in the pavement. Boone steps into it without hesitation. He does not take the direct route. He moves along the raised curb, tests each section with one paw, then crosses where the current is weakest. Caleb follows the same path. "You know this street," he says. Boone pauses beside a boarded diner. For the first time, he lowers the medical bag. Caleb stops 15 feet away. Rain ticks against the plywood windows. The dog's chest rises quickly, but his eyes remain clear. Caleb takes one careful step forward. "Easy." Boone watches his hands. "I am not going to hurt you." Another step. Boone's gaze moves from Caleb to the bag, then toward the road ahead. Caleb reaches into his jacket pocket and finds a small packet of beef jerky left from the shelter. He tears it open and places a piece on the sidewalk. "You must be hungry." Boone smells it from where he stands. His nose twitches once. He does not move. Caleb places another piece closer. The dog looks past the food, not at Caleb, at the bag. Then he grips the handle again and lifts it. The meaning is unmistakable. There is no time for this. Boone starts forward, but Caleb raises his right hand, palm angled down, fingers together. It is an old directional halt signal, one he has not used in years. The German shepherd stops instantly. His body lowers. His elbows nearly touch the wet pavement. Caleb's breath catches. No stray learns that by accident. For 1 second, the rain seems to quiet around them. Marine and dog remain still, connected by a command older than whatever has brought them to this street. Stay, Caleb says. Boone holds the position. Caleb moves closer. 12 feet. 10. 8. He can now see the faded blue fabric around the dog's neck and the narrow line, where a proper collar once rubbed against the fur. He can see small scars beneath the mud, not fresh, but earned over time. Caleb reaches slowly toward the medical bag. Boone's amber eyes soften, almost apologetic. Then a distant sound rolls through the flooded neighborhood. 3 hollow knocks. Caleb turns toward it. The sound comes from somewhere beyond the next row of buildings, faint beneath the rain. Boone rises before the echo disappears. He takes the bag and moves away again. Not running this time. Leading. Caleb looks down at the untouched jerky lying in the water. Hunger should have won. Fear should have won. Obedience should have won. Something stronger has overruled all three. He follows Boone past the diner and toward the old industrial district, where brick warehouses stand beside the rising river. The street's narrow. Power lines sag overhead. At the corner of Front and Marsteller, Boone stops beneath another broken street lamp and looks back. Caleb closes the distance until only 20 feet remain between them. You took the right bag, he says, his voice lower now. You chose the right person. Boone turns toward the river. Beyond him, through the gray rain, the abandoned riverside mill rises above the flooded lots like a ship that has forgotten how to leave shore. One upper window is broken. A rusted sign swings in the wind. The entire place has already been searched twice for a missing 9-year-old girl. Caleb does not know that yet. He only knows Boone has carried the bag nearly a mile without once trying to open it. The dog steps through the mill's open gate, pauses, and waits. Caleb feels Mason's old stitches pulling against the weight of everything inside that red canvas. Ugly still works. He crosses the gate after Boone, and somewhere beneath the ground, too faint to be mistaken for thunder, the knocking begins again. The iron gate gives a tired groan behind Caleb as he steps into the flooded yard of Riverside Mill. Boone waits beneath the shadow of a loading platform, the red medical bag hanging from his jaws, rainwater dripping from its corners. The old factory rises 4 stories above them, built from dark brick stained by decades of river fog. Most of the windows are boarded. The rest stare down like empty eyes. Somewhere inside, loose metal taps against stone in the wind. Somewhere below, 3 faint knocks answer from beneath the earth. Caleb stands still and listens. Nothing follows. Do it again, he whispers, though he does not know whether he is speaking to the dog or whoever may be trapped under the mill. Boone turns his head toward the western wall. He does not enter through the broken front doors. Instead, he moves along the building, nose close to the ground, weaving between weeds and pieces of storm debris. Caleb follows at a distance of 15 feet. The shepherd stops beside an overturned trash bin where a volunteer search notice has been pasted to the brick. The paper is wet and partly torn, but the photograph remains visible. A girl with light brown hair smiles beneath the words missing child. Emma Hayes, 9 years old. Last seen the previous evening near the Cape Fear River. Caleb has seen the same picture at the shelter, though he had been too busy treating injuries to study it. Now he notices the yellow barrette in Emma's hair. Boone lifts his nose toward the photograph, then continues. Caleb reaches for the radio clipped to his jacket. Emergency Shelter Command. This is Staff Sergeant Caleb Mercer. I am at Riverside Mill. I may have found a lead connected to Emma Hayes. Static answers first. Then the voice of Sheriff Rachel Donovan breaks through. Mercer, that property was searched before dawn and again at 8 this morning. No sign of the child. Leave the structure until a team reaches you. Caleb looks toward Boone. The dog has stopped near a row of rusted drainage pipes. Sheriff, I am not inside the structure. A German shepherd brought me here with my medical bag. He appears trained, and he is tracking something. There is a brief silence on the radio. Did you say the dog brought you there? Yes, ma'am. Hold your position. We are 6 minutes away. Boone moves again before Caleb can respond. He passes the drainage pipes and circles behind a collapsed wooden shed. A puddle covers most of the ground, smooth except where rain forms tiny rings across its surface. Boone steps around it rather than through it. Caleb notices why. In the mud beside the water, protected beneath the edge of the shed roof, is the faint outline of a small shoe. Not a full print. Only the heel and part of the sole. It points toward the river wall. Caleb crouches and studies it without touching the ground. The tread is narrow, made for a child. Near it lies a yellow plastic barrette, half buried beneath wet leaves. His chest tightens. Emma, he says softly. Boone glances back once. Then he heads toward a section of brick wall covered with ivy and old paint. There is no door, no window, nothing that should interest a dog. Boone lowers the medical bag carefully onto a patch of dry concrete. Then he scratches at the base of the wall. Once, twice, 3 times. Caleb approaches and brushes the ivy aside. Behind it, the bricks are newer than those around them, but only by a few decades. A repair, a sealed opening. He places his palm against the wall. The brick is cold and wet. At first, he feels nothing. Then a thin current of air touches the back of his fingers. It smells of river water, old machinery, and something faintly human. Soap. Maybe shampoo. Boone presses his nose against a narrow crack near the ground and releases a low whine. Caleb kneels beside him. You found another way in, did you? The dog looks toward the red bag, then back to the wall. Caleb hears engines approaching beyond the gate. Sheriff vehicles. A rescue truck. Doors open. Boots strike wet pavement. Rachel Donovan appears around the corner with 4 responders, and Tom Hayes close behind her. Tom is a lean man in his early 40s, dressed in work pants and a rain jacket pulled over a faded shipyard shirt. His face is gray with exhaustion. He sees the barrette in Caleb's hand and stops breathing for a moment. That belongs to Emma, he says. His voice is almost lost beneath the rain. Caleb holds it out carefully. Tom does not take it. He only stares. She wore it yesterday. Rachel looks at the sealed wall, then at Boone. We checked every room in this building. This is not a room, Caleb says. It may be an old service passage. One of the responders unfolds a weathered property map beneath the shed roof. The current plans show nothing behind the wall. Tom steps closer, rain running from his hair. The mill had maintenance tunnels, he says. My father worked here when I was a boy. Some ran beneath the river pumps. They sealed them after the flood of 1999. Are here to help you. The mill answers with dripping water and the distant creak of steel. Tom closes his eyes. Rachel lowers her head to listen. For 5 long seconds, there is only rain. Then, from somewhere beyond the sealed wall, 3 weak knocks sound in the darkness. Boone picks up the medical bag. This time, no one calls him a thief. The 3 knocks fade into the brick, leaving the rescue team motionless beneath the rain. Tom Hayes takes 1 step toward the wall, but Sheriff Rachel Donovan catches his arm before he reaches it. Let them open it safely, she says. Tom nods, though every part of him seems to lean toward the sound of his daughter. 2 responders bring a portable rotary saw from the truck, while another checks the wall with a thermal scanner. The device shows cold brick, trapped moisture, and a narrow hollow space beyond the repair. No clear body heat appears. Caleb watches Boone instead. The German shepherd stands with the medical bag between his front paws, nose lifted toward the crack. His ears turn at sounds no one else can hear. When the saw begins to whine, Boone steps back, but does not leave. Dust rises beneath the shelter roof and mixes with the smell of wet concrete. The first brick comes loose. Then another. The opening grows slowly, revealing not a room but a dark maintenance corridor descending beneath the mill. Cold air flows out in a steady breath. It carries the scent of river mud, machine oil, and stagnant water. Tom whispers Emma's name into the darkness. No answer comes. Rachel shines a flashlight through the opening. The beam reaches a narrow walkway bordered by old pipes. Water covers the floor several inches deep and moves toward the riverside of the building. The passage slopes downward, one responder says. If the river keeps rising, this will fill. Rachel studies the opening. It is barely wide enough for a person without equipment. We need to widen it and brace the top. Boone lifts the red bag and pushes his head through the gap. Caleb catches the handle before the dog can force his shoulders inside. Boone pulls once, not in panic, but with purpose. "I know," Caleb says quietly. She is still waiting. The dog releases the bag and looks at him. Behind those amber eyes is the same command Caleb felt at the shelter. "Hurry." A responder named Daniel Price unfolds an older set of mill plans that Tom has found inside a rusted cabinet near the loading dock. The paper is stained and brittle, but faint blue lines show 3 service tunnels beneath the western wing. One leads to the pump chamber beside the river. Another ends beneath the boiler room. The third disappears beneath a section marked Storage Foundation. "That is where the knocks came from," Caleb says, pointing to the hidden passage. Daniel traces the route with one finger. "There should be a junction about 70 yards in. After that, the tunnel divides." Tom stares at the map. Emma would not know which way to go. Boone walks to the paper, lowers his nose, and sniffs the yellow barrette resting near its corner. Then he turns toward the opening. Rachel sees it. The dog does. Rain strikes the roof harder. A river gauge report comes over the radio. The Cape Fear has risen another 4 inches in less than half an hour. Rachel looks toward the dark corridor, then at Caleb. "You said he responds to military hand signals." "He responded once." "Do you trust him?" Caleb studies Boone's soaked coat, the torn ear, the faded strip of blue fabric around his neck. He thinks of the untouched food, the careful route through the floodwater, and the way the dog carried the bag nearly a mile without opening it. "Yes," he says. The answer surprises no one more than him. Rachel assigns Daniel to enter with Caleb. They fasten safety lines around their waists, test their radios, and place waterproof lights across their chests. Caleb checks the medical bag. The zipper has been scraped, but Mason's black stitches still hold. Inside are thermal blankets, bandages, glucose gel, water, a stethoscope, and enough basic supplies to keep a frightened child stable until the team can bring her out. He closes it and reaches for the strap. Boone places one paw on the bag. Caleb looks down. "You have carried it this far." He threads the strap through the faded fabric around Boone's neck and secures the bag lightly across the dog's shoulders so it will not drag. Boone stands perfectly still during the adjustment. Trained stillness. Familiar stillness. Caleb feels another piece of the mystery settle into place. This dog once belonged beside someone in uniform. Rachel kneels near the opening and calls into the passage. "Emma, we are coming to you. Keep making noise when you can." For several seconds, nothing answers. Then a sound travels through the tunnel, softer than before. Not 3 knocks this time. 1. A pause. Then one more. Tom covers his mouth with both hands. Caleb lowers himself through the broken wall. Cold water closes around his boots. Daniel follows, guiding the safety rope behind them. Boone enters last, careful and silent, the red bag secured against his side. The corridor is no more than 4 feet wide. Rusted pipes run along the ceiling, and drops of water fall in a slow metallic rhythm. Their flashlight beams reveal old warning signs, peeling paint, and footprints that vanish beneath the moving water. 20 yards inside, Boone stops. 2 passages open ahead. The left tunnel smells strongly of the river. The right is darker and partly blocked by fallen insulation. Caleb waits for the dog to choose. Boone lowers his nose, circles once, then turns toward the right. He takes 3 steps and freezes. From somewhere beyond the obstruction comes the faint sound of a child breathing through tears. Boone looks back at Caleb. Then he moves forward, carrying the only mercy they have into the dark. Boone moves into the right passage with his nose low and the red medical bag secured against his side. Caleb follows, turning his shoulders to fit between the damp walls. Daniel comes behind him, guiding the safety line through the narrow opening. The tunnel smells of river mud, old copper, and wet concrete. Above them, water slips through cracks in the ceiling and taps against the pipes with the patience of a clock. The sound of the child has stopped. Caleb raises one hand. Everyone freezes. "Emma," he calls gently. "My name is Caleb Mercer. Your father is outside. We are coming to bring you home." For several seconds, the only answer is the soft movement of water around their boots. Then a small voice reaches them through the darkness. "Boone." The German shepherd lifts his head so quickly that the medical bag shifts against his shoulder. A quiet whine escapes him. He steps forward, but a fallen section of insulation blocks most of the passage. Caleb kneels and pulls at the soaked material. It is heavier than it looks, tangled around old cables and a rusted pipe. Daniel moves beside him. Together they clear enough space for Boone to crawl beneath, but not enough for a grown man. "Stay," Caleb says. Boone lowers himself at once. His eyes remain fixed on the darkness beyond the obstruction. Caleb unfastens the medical bag from the faded blue fabric around the dog's neck. He checks the strap, then secures it more tightly across Boone's back. "Take it to her." Boone does not move. He looks at Caleb as though waiting for something more. Caleb places one hand against the dog's wet shoulder. Beneath the fur, he feels a steady heartbeat. "Go." Boone slips under the debris and disappears. The red bag brushes once against the concrete, then vanishes with him. Caleb lies flat and shines his flashlight through the narrow gap. The beam catches Boone's hind legs for a moment before the tunnel curves away. "Emma," Caleb calls. "The dog is bringing you supplies. Stay where you are." A faint cough answers. Then the ceiling gives a deep metallic groan. Daniel looks upward. "We need to move." A corroded support pipe shifts above them, dropping dust and beads of water. Caleb reaches for the obstruction again, but the pipe settles across the passage with a heavy clang, pressing the tangled insulation lower. No one is hurt, but the opening closes until only a space several inches high remains near the floor. The safety rope catches beneath the pipe. Daniel tests it carefully. It will not move. "Sheriff Donovan," he says into his radio. "The passage is blocked approximately 70 yards from the entrance. We are safe, but we cannot advance. The dog is through with the medical kit." Static fills the tunnel. Rachel's voice arrives in broken pieces. "Understood. We are checking the boiler room access. River level still rising." Caleb presses his cheek close to the wet floor and looks through the gap. Nothing. "Boone," he calls. The dog does not return. A minute passes. Then another. Daniel begins examining the pipe supports, searching for a safe way to lift them. Caleb listens to the darkness beyond the barrier. He hears water, a distant scrape, then silence. His mind offers him an old memory, Mason's medical bag lying beyond his reach while time closes like a door. Caleb shuts his eyes. This is not that day. This child is alive. This dog knows where she is. "Come on, partner," he whispers. Far beyond the obstruction, Boone moves through water that now reaches halfway up his legs. The tunnel narrows and opens into a low-maintenance chamber beneath the old storage foundation. A thin shaft of gray light falls through a ventilation grate nearly 15 feet above. Emma Hayes lies on a raised concrete platform beside an unused pump. Her yellow raincoat is wrapped around her shoulders. One sneaker is missing. Her face is pale with cold, but her eyes open when Boone enters. "You came back," she says. Boone climbs onto the platform and presses his nose beneath her hand. Her fingers settle weakly against his ear. He lowers himself beside her, then turns so the red medical bag rests within reach. Emma touches the faded white emblem. "You brought help." Boone watches her face. When she begins to shiver, he presses closer, sharing what warmth remains in his body. Back at the obstruction, Caleb hears a faint metallic sound. A zipper. It comes from the other side of the tunnel, small but unmistakable. Then Emma's voice drifts through the pipe system, fragile and filled with relief. "Good boy, Boone. You came back." Rises through a vertical service shaft. Caleb presses the radio against his shoulder. "Sheriff Donovan, check the western boiler room for a floor access panel. The chamber may connect beneath it." Static answers, followed by Rachel's voice. "Understood. We are moving now." Caleb turns back toward the dark gap near the floor. "Emma, can you hear me?" A pause. "Yes." Her voice is weak, but steady. "Boone is here." "Good. Keep one hand on him. He knows what to do." On the other side, Emma rests her fingers against Boone's wet coat. The German shepherd lies close enough for his warmth to reach her through the cold fabric of the raincoat. The red medical bag sits between them, open beneath the narrow shaft of light. Emma has found the silver thermal blanket inside, but her hands shake too badly to unfold it. Boone watches her struggle, then lowers his muzzle beneath one corner and lifts. The thin material opens with a soft metallic whisper. Emma gives the smallest laugh. "You are smarter than everybody." She pulls the blanket around her shoulders and leans against the dog. Water moves across the chamber floor several feet below the platform, rising slowly along the stained concrete. Caleb hears the change in its sound. It is no longer dripping. It is flowing. "Emma," he calls. Is the water touching the platform? She looks over the edge. Not yet. It is close. Caleb closes his eyes for 1 second. Stay where you are. We are coming. A heavy scrape echoes through the tunnel behind him. Then Rachel's voice breaks through the radio. We found the boiler room panel. It is sealed, but the rescue crew is opening it. Caleb and Daniel retreat from the blocked passage and follow the safety line back toward the junction. The water now reaches halfway up Caleb's calves. It is colder than before, carrying pieces of leaves and dark flecks of rust. At the junction, Boone's earlier path remains clear in the ripples. Caleb takes the left branch toward the river pumps, then finds a narrow ladder bolted to the wall. It rises into darkness. The smell changes from river mud to dust, wet wood, and old ash. He reaches a small landing beneath the boiler room floor just as light breaks through overhead. A metal panel lifts, and Rachel's face appears in the opening. We have you. Caleb pulls himself into the boiler room. Tom Hayes stands beyond the rescue crew, pale and silent, holding Emma's yellow beret in one hand. Caleb crosses the room to another access hatch marked on the old plan. It has been hidden beneath rotted boards and years of dust. The crew removes them carefully. Beneath the hatch, a vertical shaft drops toward the maintenance chamber. A faint sound rises through it. Boone's breathing. Caleb secures a rope around his waist and begins descending. The shaft is narrow, no more than 3 feet across. His boots touch the chamber platform beside Emma. For a moment, she only stares at him. Her face is tired and pale beneath the yellow hood, but her eyes are open. Boone stands between them, the red bag at his paws. My dad, Emma asks. He is right above us, Caleb says. He never stopped looking. Her mouth trembles into a small smile. Caleb kneels and checks her breathing, her pulse, and the swelling around her ankle. You did well, he tells her. You stayed awake. Emma looks at Boone. He made me. Caleb wraps another thermal blanket around her and gives her a small amount of water. Boone remains pressed against her side. How long has he been with you? Caleb asks. Emma glances toward the tunnel where the water entered. Since last night. I fell through a broken gate near the river, and the water carried me under the building. Boone pulled my raincoat until I reached the platform. He stayed when it got dark. She touches the torn edge of his ear. He left 2 times. The first time, he brought a bottle of water. The second time, he brought part of a sandwich. Then I got too cold, and I told him I needed my mom. Her voice becomes smaller. He looked at me for a long time. Then he ran away. Caleb understands. He was not leaving you. Emma shakes her head. No, he was finding someone. Boone looks toward the red medical bag, then at Caleb. The Marine rests one hand on the dog's shoulder. The truth settles quietly between them. Boone had guarded the child through the storm, searched the city alone, found the one bag that could help her, and chosen the one man who would follow. Above them, the rescue rope lowers into the chamber. Tom's voice calls down through the shaft. Emma, sweetheart, I am here. Her eyes fill, but she does not cry. She holds Boone tighter. Caleb looks at the water, now only inches below the platform. We are taking you home, he says. Boone rises beside him, ready before the command is given. The rescue rope hangs through the shaft, swaying gently above Emma's head. Caleb secures the padded harness around her shoulders and checks every buckle twice. Boone stands beside the platform, watching each movement with quiet attention. Water reaches the edge of the concrete and spills across it in a thin, cold sheet. Above them, Daniel Price calls down from the boiler room. River Control reports another surge. We may have 7 minutes before the lower chamber fills. Caleb looks at Emma. Her lips are pale, but she is still awake. You heard him, he says softly. We are going upstairs. Emma keeps one hand buried in Boone's wet fur. He comes too. He does. Caleb raises his radio. Sheriff Donovan, begin lifting on my count. The rope tightens. Emma rises several inches from the platform, then stops. A sharp metallic scrape sounds inside the shaft. Daniel's voice follows. Hold. The harness line is catching on an old bracket. Caleb looks upward. Halfway inside the narrow shaft, the rope has twisted around a rusted pipe support. Emma hangs only 2 feet above the platform, turning slowly beneath the line. She does not cry out. She only looks down at Boone. The dog steps beneath her feet, as if he could hold her weight if the rope failed. Lower her, Caleb says. Emma returns to the platform. Water closes around Caleb's boots and reaches Boone's lower legs. Daniel studies the shaft from above with a flashlight. We can remove the bracket, but not from this angle. Caleb scans the chamber. The old ventilation pipe runs along the wall and disappears through a narrow opening near the ceiling. Beside it, a maintenance ladder has pulled loose from the concrete, leaving only 3 usable rungs. The opening is too small for a person. Boone looks toward it before Caleb does. The dog lifts his nose, tests the air, and walks to the wall. There is another access point, Caleb says. Daniel answers through the radio. The old plans show that vent connecting to a service grate behind the western boiler. Caleb removes a coil of thin guide cord from the medical bag. It is strong enough to pull a heavier rescue line through the vent, but only if someone carries it to the other side. He clips one end to Boone's faded blue neck strap. I need you to find the light, he says. Boone looks at him, then at Emma. She reaches out and touches the torn edge of his ear. Go, Boone. I will be here. The German Shepherd places his front paws on the lowest rung. Caleb supports his weight until he reaches the vent opening. Boone squeezes inside, pulling the cord behind him. For a few seconds, the flashlight catches the red and black of his coat. Then he disappears. Water spreads across the platform. Caleb moves Emma onto the highest section near the pump housing and wraps the thermal blanket tighter around her. How long have you been a Marine? She asks. 17 years. Do Marines get scared? Caleb looks toward the dark vent. Everyone I have known. What do? They keep going while they are scared. Emma nods as though storing the answer somewhere safe. Above them, Tom Hayes calls her name again. I am all right, Dad. She answers, though the words tremble. The chamber gives a low groan as water pushes through the tunnel. Caleb watches the surface climb past his knees. For minutes, the guide cord remains still. Come on, Boone, he whispers. In the vent, the dog crawls through darkness barely wide enough for his shoulders. Dust clings to his wet fur. The metal beneath his paws vibrates with the movement of the old building. Ahead, a line of white light appears through a grate. Boone pushes against it once. It does not open. He steps back as far as the narrow pipe allows and presses forward again. The grate shifts half an inch. In the boiler room, Rachel hears the rattle behind a stack of broken shelving. Over here, Daniel and 2 responders pull the shelving aside. Boone's muzzle appears through the opening. The grate swings outward, and the dog climbs into the light with the guide cord trailing behind him. He made it, Rachel says into the radio. Caleb closes his eyes for one brief second. Attach the rescue line. The team ties a stronger rope to Boone's cord and feeds it back through the vent. Caleb pulls it into the chamber and secures it to an iron support above the platform, creating a new lifting path that avoids the rusted bracket. 3 minutes. He places Emma in the harness again. Boone returns to the vent opening above, looking down through the darkness. Ready, Caleb calls. The line tightens. Emma rises smoothly this time. She passes the water line, the old pipes, and the narrow shaft walls. Halfway up, her eyes close. Emma, Caleb calls. No response. Boone barks once from above. The sound travels down the shaft like a command. Emma opens her eyes. I am awake, she whispers. Tom reaches for her as she clears the opening. He pulls her into his arms, the silver blanket shining beneath the boiler room lights. Caleb hears Tom say her name again and again. Then the rescue line returns. Water has reached Caleb's waist. He fastens the medical bag across his chest and climbs into the harness. Before the team lifts him, he looks toward the vent. Boone is waiting above beside Emma, his amber eyes fixed on the shaft. Caleb grips the rope. I failed 1 person with this bag, he says into the rising water. Not 2. Boone answers with 1 clear bark. The rope tightens, and Caleb rises toward the light. Caleb rises through the shaft with the red medical bag pressed against his chest and cold water streaming from his uniform. Hands reach for him from the boiler room floor. Daniel grips 1 arm. Rachel takes the other. Together they pull him into the light just as the chamber below fills with the dark rush of the river. For several seconds, Caleb remains on 1 knee, breathing beneath the yellow glare of emergency lamps. The old building groans around them. Rain strikes the broken windows. Somewhere nearby, Tom Hayes is speaking softly to his daughter as paramedics wrap her in dry blankets and check her pulse. Emma lies on a stretcher with Boone pressed close beside her. The German Shepherd is shivering now that the work is done, but he refuses to move farther than a few inches from her hand. Emma keeps 2 fingers curled in the fur beneath his torn ear. "He stays with me," she says when a medic tries to make room. The medic looks toward Rachel. Rachel looks toward Caleb. Caleb rises slowly and crosses the boiler room, water dripping from his boots. "He stays," he says. Boone lifts his head at the sound of Caleb's voice. For the first time since the shelter, there is no urgency in his eyes, only exhaustion. Caleb kneels and places one hand against the dog's shoulder. "You did enough," he says. Boone leans into the touch for half a second, then returns his attention to Emma. Outside, the storm has softened to a steady rain. The rescue team carries Emma through the mill yard toward the waiting ambulance. Tom walks beside her, one hand holding the stretcher rail and the other clutching the yellow beret. Boone follows without a leash. No one tries to stop him. Caleb carries the red bag. Mason's black stitches are soaked, but they still hold. At the ambulance, Emma looks at Boone and then at Caleb. "Will he know where I go?" she asks. "He will," Caleb says. "But this time, he will not have to search alone." Boone places his front paws on the ambulance step until Emma reaches down to touch his head. Only then does he step back. The doors close. Red lights sweep across the wet brick walls as the ambulance turns through the gate. Boone watches until the sound disappears. Then his legs weaken. Caleb catches him beneath the chest before he reaches the pavement. "Easy, partner." The word leaves Caleb's mouth before he has time to consider it. Boone looks up at him, and something quiet passes between them. At the emergency veterinary clinic 2 miles from the river, Dr. Claire Morgan examines Boone beneath warm lights. She is in her early 40s, calm-eyed and gentle, with silver beginning to show at her temples. She cleans the mud from his paws, checks his breathing, and wraps him in a thick gray blanket. Boone tolerates every movement, though his gaze remains fixed on the red medical bag resting beside Caleb's chair. "He is dehydrated and exhausted," Claire says, "but he is stronger than he looks." She runs a scanner slowly over his shoulders. The device remains silent. She tries again near the left side of his neck. A clear tone fills the room. Caleb straightens. Claire checks the number on the small screen, then enters it into the National Registry. Her expression changes. This dog is not a stray. Caleb looks at Boone. The shepherd rests his head on his paws, as though the statement has nothing to do with him. Claire reads the record twice before speaking. His registered name is Boone. He was certified in urban search and rescue. Flood response, structural collapse, missing persons. Caleb feels the pieces of the day align. The hand signals, the careful route, the medical bag, the way Boone had ignored hunger and fear. Who handled him? Claire turns the screen toward Caleb. A photograph shows a younger Boone beside a man in an orange rescue jacket. Both face the camera beneath a banner from the North Carolina Emergency Response Task Force. "His handler was Aaron Whitaker," she says. "He died during a flood operation near Lumberton 2 years ago." The room becomes very still. Rain whispers against the clinic windows. Claire continues more softly. "According to the file, Boone survived, but after the funeral he stopped responding to new handlers. He refused food during training sessions. He would not enter a vehicle. 3 months later, he escaped from a temporary foster facility. Search teams looked for him, but there were no confirmed sightings." Caleb studies the faded blue fabric around Boone's neck. It is not part of a discarded collar. It is the torn remains of a working harness. Claire opens another record. Aaron trained him to locate people, return for assistance, and identify the right equipment when a victim needed medical support. Caleb looks toward Mason's bag. "He did not take it because he recognized me." Claire shakes her head. "He took it because he recognized the job." Boone opens his eyes. Caleb kneels beside him. 2 years. "Without a handler," he says. "And you still went back." Boone raises his head and places his muzzle against Caleb's wrist. No command has been given. No reward is offered. Beyond the clinic wall, an ambulance passes toward the hospital where Emma is safe beside her father. Claire closes the registry and watches the Marine and the dog in silence. Boone had lost the person who taught him how to save lives. Caleb had lost the person whose bag he still carried. Yet when a child waded beneath the river, neither loss had been strong enough to erase what mercy had trained them to do. 3 weeks later, morning sunlight rests gently across the front porch of Caleb Mercer's small house outside Wilmington. The storm debris is gone from the streets, though pale watermarks still circle the trunks of the old oak trees. Somewhere beyond the neighborhood, church bells sound 9 slow notes. Boone lies beside the front door with his head resting on his paws, watching Caleb repair the final loose stitch on the red medical bag. Mason's black thread remains along the handle, uneven but strong. Caleb adds one new patch beneath it, a narrow strip of dark blue cloth embroidered with simple white letters. Boone, never off duty. The German shepherd lifts one ear when Caleb reads the words aloud. Too much? Caleb asks. Boone gives a quiet breath through his nose and closes his eyes again. I will take that as approval. The adoption process has not been simple. Boone's rescue organization wanted medical reports, a home inspection, and proof that Caleb understood the needs of a retired working dog. Caleb completed every form. He attended every meeting. When an official asked whether he wanted Boone as a pet, Caleb looked across the room at the shepherd sitting beside the exit, studying every person who entered. Not a pet, he said. A partner. No one argued. Emma Hayes returns home from the hospital 2 days later with her ankles supported in a soft brace. On the first Saturday after her release, Tom drives her to Caleb's house. She steps carefully from the truck carrying a paper bag filled with dog treats and a new yellow beret clipped above her left ear. Boone is waiting behind the screen door. The moment he sees her, his body becomes still. Emma whispers his name. Caleb opens the door. Boone crosses the porch slowly, as if approaching someone fragile. He stops in front of her and lowers his head. Emma wraps both arms around his neck. Boone presses against her without making a sound. Tom turns toward the yard and wipes rain that is no longer falling from the corner of one eye. Caleb says nothing. Some reunions do not need witnesses. They only need time. Emma visits every weekend after that. She reads books on the porch while Boone sleeps beside her chair. She learns the hand signal for stay, the signal for search, and the quiet command that tells him his work is finished. The first time she gives it, Boone looks at Caleb for confirmation. Caleb nods. The dog lies down at Emma's feet, and she smiles as though she has been trusted with something sacred. By early fall, Caleb and Boone begin working with the county volunteer search team. Boone is older than some of the active dogs, and his torn ear gives him the look of a soldier who has already served enough. Yet when the training whistle sounds, his posture changes. His eyes sharpen. His steps become light. Caleb never forces him forward. He simply opens the truck door and waits. Boone always chooses to climb inside. The red medical bag rides between them. On their first official search, an elderly man with memory loss wanders from a care home near Greenfield Lake. Boone follows the scent along a walking trail, through a stand of cypress trees, and toward an empty picnic shelter. The man is found sitting safely beneath the roof, confused but unharmed. When Caleb wraps a blanket around his shoulders, Boone rests his muzzle against the man's knee. The man smiles. Good dog, he says. Caleb looks at the blue patch on the medical bag. The best. That evening, Caleb sits alone at his kitchen table after Boone has fallen asleep by the door. Mason's old identification tag rests in his palm. For years, Caleb has believed carrying the bag means carrying the moment he failed. He remembers the dust, the radio, and the terrible distance between wanting to save someone and reaching them in time. But now another memory stands beside it. A flooded tunnel. A child's hand moving beneath a yellow sleeve. A dog carrying help through the dark. Caleb places Mason's tag inside the front pocket of the bag. Ugly still works, he whispers. The words no longer hurt in the same way. Outside, light rain begins to touch the porch roof. Boone opens his eyes. Caleb takes the medical bag from the table and hangs it on the wooden hook beside the door. Below it hangs Boone's new working harness, clean and dry, with the faded strip of blue fabric sewn carefully into the chest strap. The old life has not been erased. It has been given a place in the new one. Boone rises and walks to Caleb. The shepherd looks at the bag, then toward the rain beyond the glass. Caleb rests a hand between his ears. No call tonight, partner. Boone waits. Caleb smiles faintly. This time we go together. He opens the door, and they step onto the porch. The neighborhood is quiet. Water shines along the street beneath the lamps. Boone stands beside him, not ahead and not behind. Somewhere far away, a siren passes and fades. The red bag hangs ready near the doorway. Some prayers never arrive as words. Sometimes they come on tired paws, carrying mercy to the place where it is needed most.